Thank you very much. You know, today we're talking about 20-year-old Chris. He was a really fun-loving guy. He was in great shape, planning on joining the Marines. He was a young man with his whole life ahead of him. But sadly, that life would be cut short just a few weeks before his 21st birthday. Chris was found dead from a drug that is 100 times more potent than heroin and on the rise in suburban areas. And his parents would be pointing the finger at his girlfriend, Tony. Take a look.
Prior to my son going out with Tony, I never knew him to be involved with any drugs. It was totally out of his character. He was a fitness nut. The night my son died, Christopher got sick after partying with Tony.
Christopher started complaining about not feeling good, and something didn't seem right between the two of them.
Around 10 o'clock, Christopher and Tony went up to their bedroom, 11:15. Tony yelled up the steps to Sally, "Is Christopher up there?" Sally said, "No, he's not up here." And then she said, "Well, maybe he went for a walk." That's when Sally went all the way down the stairs and confronted her and said, "What do you mean he went for a walk?"
So I was like, okay, so like, where is he? She's like, well, I don't know. What if something really bad happened to him? I had a chill through my body because of the way she had said that. When I came up those stairs and banged on that door, I knew by the second bang something was really wrong. I ran back down, ran over. I said, Bob, you gotta go right now. Something's wrong with your son. I know it.
I pushed the door in hard. He was sitting on top of the toilet, chin on his hand, with his eyes barely closed. And I immediately felt the shock of seeing my son dead.
Tony had waited a crucial 45 minutes before she came over to get us.
Tony's the only one that could have prevented my son's death. Tony knew right where Christopher was, and she lied to us.
If she had come to us sooner, he could be alive today. Whatever you were doing, you left him for 45 minutes. In the state of New York, they call that murder.
Well, Bob and Sally say they are convinced that Chris's girlfriend caused their son's death after she disappeared and did not even attend his funeral.
Tony is continually making statements, trying to divert the blame for my son's death. While we were at the hospital, Tony did go into the bathroom and she was flushing the toilet continually, and I figured that she was probably getting rid of any kind of paraphernalia she might have had on her. But as the days went on and I started seeing the Facebook and the text messaging mentioned Adderall and marijuana and tinnies.
This is the case in which I found on the outside pocket of Christopher's suitcase. And when I opened it up, I dumped out what was in it, and what was in it was a piece of tin foil. On the inside, I had found something what appeared to look like plastic, burnt and melted. Tony Ann needs to start being honest with herself. She needs to admit, okay, I was partying. It's all over the internet. Everybody sees it. You're not fooling or kidding me.
I believe Tony is psychotic because there was pictures of her on Facebook at a college party and where she was drinking with a bunch of guys and she was making cheers to Christopher, how we miss you, bro. I would like to see justice because she is continually bringing this up and actually making a mockery out of my son's death.
First off, obviously, I have to say I am so sorry for your loss. As a father of two boys, I just cannot even imagine. So I'm very sorry for your loss. Your position is that his girlfriend, Tony, is responsible for his death in two ways. And B got him started on drugs, right?
That's exactly my position.
So you believe that she knew he had overdosed and didn't tell you?
Yes.
Why do y'all believe that? Did you talk to her first?
I did, because after coming home, I went upstairs. Christopher was complaining about not really feeling so good, so we weren't really sure what was going on. He seemed a little distant from his dad since he had gotten there, and for me, I found it to be kind of odd.
What does that have to do with her causing his death? I hear you talking about all that, you know, he was acting a little different, he was talking to this one and not that one. That's a big leap to this girl murdered this boy.
The social awkwardness, which was never present in my son's life and myself, began to happen on this particular visit. And Tony was very much aware of it and she was more or less keeping my son from having any direct personal contact with myself. And this particular night, when we'd returned from a restaurant, Tony and Christopher went to their side of the house, just disappeared, no formal goodnight, nothing of that sort. And then within an hour or so is when Tony represented herself to Sally by asking us where Christopher was. This was late at night. I was starting to fall asleep. Sally was sitting up. She was very perplexed about the way the whole evening went because while we were together in the car, they weren't talking at all, but they were texting each other in the backseat of the car. And Tony did not obviously want me to hear what she was talking about. And my son was very upset. He didn't feel well because I think all the pressure was really starting to bother him with her being a dividing force between us.
Okay, so one of the things you're pointing to is that your son was seeming to distance himself from you and
under pressure,
get really involved with this girl. But that seems to kind of be the natural order of things. Now, maybe you don't like the girl or whatever, and so that you think maybe a bad influence or whatever, and I understand that. But you say Tony that night was high as a kite.
Oh, she appeared to be. Not knowing the whole full length of what was going on prior to their visit out in Wisconsin. And out in Wisconsin, they seemed to be going to a lot of parties. Bob had showed me the Facebooks and showed me pictures, and I just seemed to see all drinking, all partying. That's all I saw all over their internet, is partying, partying, partying. They're underage children. In Wisconsin, I do believe the law is 21 to be able to drink. What else they did at these parties, the depth of it, I don't know.
Well, let's fast forward to the night, because you're talking about things that I understand that you may think there's a causal link there because of the pattern of behavior that was developing.
Absolutely.
Right. So I mean, it's not that I don't get it, but
right. As a parent, you see the development from childhood
it's a
to
pretty
adult.
big leap. But let's look at the timeline of what happened, so we just know kind of what the sequence of events was. Okay.
Very good.
Now, we're talking about March 16th. Chris buys foil to make a tinny to smoke marijuana. Okay, now we know that. March 18th, it's reported that he smoked marijuana to help him sleep.
I have no idea. I wasn't aware of that. But...
Okay, well, I'm giving you some information.
Okay.
Then on the 19th at 5:30, it said that he smoked marijuana to relax. And we'll be able to discuss this
Sure.
in a little bit. 8 p.m., he complains he's tired and has a headache. At 10:43, Chris texts Tony, "I'm really car sick." At 10:50 p.m., Chris goes to downstairs bathroom to throw up. At 11 p.m., Tony hears Chris go to the upstairs bathroom. And at 11:35, she asks Sally and Bob about Chris's whereabouts. Is that true?
The last part is absolutely true.
Okay, 11:48, Chris is found unresponsive in the bathroom. Sally calls 911 and Bob starts CPR.
Correct.
All correct there? Okay. Then March 20th now at 12:30 a.m., the first EMS responders arrive. 1 o'clock, paramedics arrive and try to resuscitate Chris for an hour. 2 o'clock, he's taken to the hospital. At 2:40, you're informed that he has passed.
I actually went to the coroner's office in Connecticut and obtained the coroner's report. And he was pronounced at 1 o'clock at the hospital, 1:01. I believe he arrived at the hospital at 1 o'clock, and they pronounced him 1 minute after he was there, because my son never left that house alive. When somebody in the fruit of their life dies unnaturally, it is actually considered a homicide till proven otherwise in most circumstances. I mean, it was a mistake to remove him from that house because he never showed a sign of life.
Well, let me ask you a few questions, because Tony, who we'll talk to, says that you refused to let the EMS do CPR on him.
It's ridiculous. I was doing rescue breathing while my friend Tommy was doing chest compressions.
And you're a firefighter, correct?
I'm retired.
But you've trained as a firefighter.
Yes.
So you're trained in all of this.
Trained in all
so
of
this
it.
wasn't just you making this up as you go along. You know what you were doing.
It is very methodical.
Bottom line, you two think, but for him meeting and being in a relationship with Tony, he would be alive today.
Absolutely.
Okay. And you understand that she believes you killed your son.
That's what I heard.
She believes that you killed him out of revenge for your ex-wife.
It's just, you know, it's an hysterical laughter, I'm sorry. But it is so absurd that, well, I think that that is a sign of a deep sickness in a human being to even say that.
Well, Bob and Sally have not seen Tony since the night their son died over a year ago.
17 months.
She's been watching the show backstage. They haven't seen her. They said she didn't come to the funeral. Well, she's here. She's going to come out, and we're going to try to get to the bottom of this. We're going to find out what she has to say after the break.
I believe that Bob or Sally poisoned Chris. Bob is a deceitful, psychotic ass. I believe that Bob is capable of murder.
And later,
I am a mother of 5 children,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting here, and I can look at you face to face. You are lying. You are lying.
Okay.
Tell the story. Tell the truth.
My son died because he was left alone after he partied with his girlfriend who abandoned him.
Tony was not crying. I saw no emotion. Tony never came to the wake. She is not innocent. She's guilty of negligence. My husband has to live without his son for this reason.
well, Bob and Sally are convinced their son's girlfriend, Tony, killed their boy. The finger right back at Bob and Sally. She says they are 100% guilty of harming their son.
I believe that Bob and Sally are responsible for the death of my boyfriend, Chris. Chris died because Bob or Sally poisoned Chris. I think that Chris was killed in conspiracy so that Sally could get all of Bob's money. Bob would never have to speak or have anything to do with his ex, who was Chris's mother. Bob was trying to blame me so that no one would point the fingers at him. After Chris died, Bob just lied about everything. He told people I was stealing money and drugs. He even told people I had gotten Chris into drugs, which is completely false. When I spoke to the detective after Chris died, they told me that he had died of acute fentanyl poisoning. Bob did not want an autopsy done on Chris because he knew that they would find Bob's fentanyl in Chris's system. If Bob gave his fentanyl to Chris and that's why he died, Bob should be responsible for murder. Bob is a deceitful, psychotic ass. I believe that Bob is capable of murder.
It's been over a year since Bob and Sally have seen Tony. Well, she is here today, so I'm going to ask her to join us for this conversation. Tony, come on out. Hi, Tony. Dr. Phil, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Have a seat. All right, Tony, you've been listening to the show so far, so you know the positions that have been taken here. Are you responsible for this young man's death?
Absolutely not.
Did you kill Chris?
No.
Did you know that Chris has overdosed in the bathroom, was on the floor, and failed to tell anyone for 45 minutes because you thought you would get in trouble?
Absolutely not. I didn't even know fentanyl or any drug was involved until 2 months after he died. I had believed he died of a brain aneurysm.
I said they took some leaps in saying you guys were spending too much time together and you were a wedge between them. That's a big jump from that to saying that you murdered this boy. But then, I read here that you say that he killed his son because he hated his ex-wife and wanted revenge. Why do you say that?
Because after Chris died, I learned a lot about the truth. Before Chris died, he had believed so many lies about his mother that came from Bob that were completely false to make Chris completely hate her. And that alone, why would you manipulate your son to hate the most important person in his life? That doesn't make sense to me.
I understand, but I'll say to you what I said to them. That is a quantum leap to therefore he poisoned his son to get back at the woman.
Yeah.
That's a...
I'm sorry, it's so...
Go ahead.
It's so unbelievable that I can't believe that you could sit here lie straight out
Really?
to myself and to the world. Okay. I mean, Their bedroom was no more than a foot away from the bathroom. She admittedly came down the stairs, asked where Christopher was. He was in the bathroom right next to her, right next to the room that she was in. She eventually came, after telling 3 stories about, where's Christopher? He's in the downstairs bathroom throwing up. She was standing right next to the downstairs bathroom, telling Sally that he was in the downstairs bathroom throwing up. The downstairs bathroom door was wide open. He was not in there. Then I heard Tony say, is he outside working on the car with his father? And Sally said, it's snowing out. What are you talking about? Where is he? She said, I don't know, maybe he went for a walk. As she said that, I started getting up. Sally said, where is Christopher? And I heard Tony say, what if something really bad happened to him? I don't know. Then she told Sally, he's in the bathroom upstairs and I was banging on the door and he won't open it. What should I do? And Sally ran across to the house and started going up the stairs, and she called to me. She said, Bob, come up here. And she screamed at me to come up here in panic. So I pushed the door as hard as I could. It flew open, and there was my son.
Okay.
Respond to what he's saying.
Yeah, first of all, from the time I walked out of the bathroom when I had that really sick feeling something's wrong, I saw the light was down there. From the matter of the time that I saw that to the time I went down and up into their room to the time that Bob knocked that door down was probably maybe about 2 minutes. I ran down the stairs, ran up into the room. I said, is Chris in here? They said no. Bob was awake. They said no. And I said, okay, I don't know what's going on. I thought he might be with you. I think he's in the bathroom upstairs. We need to go figure out what's going on. Sally and I ran up to the bathroom. Bob stayed in their bedroom. Sally pounded on the door, Christopher, Christopher. Then us two ran back down up into their room. Bob said, stay here. Sally and I stayed in their bedroom. Bob ran up the stairs, pounded on the door, trying to break it open, and he screamed, call 911. I fell to my knees, started screaming at the top of my lungs, and freaking out. And Sally said, and then I ran up the stairs because I wanted to see what was going on, and Bob goes, get her out of my face. I don't need her freaking out right now. And Sally keeps going, I don't know how Christopher could do this. I don't know how he could do this to his father. Why couldn't he just talk to his father? So immediately...
We have to hear all this ridiculousness.
I know.
It's all a lie.
Dr. Phil, I have something to say.
You weren't there.
Who is this?
Next, Tony's father is here and says he is outraged that Bob and Sally have the nerve to blame his daughter.
Who gave Christopher his fentanyl patches, which is a highly addictive drug, and you want to blame my daughter for getting addicted to drugs?
And later...
I haven't seen you for 17 months. You didn't show up to the funeral, you didn't show up to the wake.
Why are you doing
doing
this to
anything.
me?
You brought this up.
No, yeah,
You made the accusations, that's why we're here today.
I'm angry that Bob and Sally blame my daughter for Chris's death. I believe that Bob and Sally were making a scene, concocting a drug story to pin it on my daughter so that everybody would think it was my daughter. She's on the dean's list. She does not do drugs. Lost a person that she loved very much. We're all hurting. Everyone's hurting in this. I thought Bob wanted to kill Tony. Bob is very vindictive, unpredictable, and a very dangerous man. And I believe that anybody with that frame of mind on a regular basis could kill someone. We fear for our safety coming out to LA.
Okay, Rick, thank you for joining us. I'm glad you're here. I'm sorry for the topic. I wish we were talking about something else.
I do too, believe me.
But you are outraged that they are accusing her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then when we start talking about she got addicted to drugs when Christopher had a bad back, and then he gave Chris fentanyl patches to wear for his bad back.
Is that true?
No, it's not true.
Did he get the fentanyl from you?
No, he didn't. I'm in pain management for an injury that I received back in the late 90s. I've been in pain management since then.
Did he get the fentanyl from you?
No, he didn't.
So how did he get the fentanyl? I saw him wearing patches before he died.
There are tragically so many cases where kids get their parents' medication, whatever it is, and take it unbeknownst to their parents. I don't know whether you knew or didn't know. I'm just saying, did he get this from you?
No, he did not get the medication from me. When you're in pain management, you get 30 days worth of prescriptions. Then you have to order it again. And you don't get any extra. There's no wiggle room for selling or giving or sharing this medication. Now, when I change my patch, I put it in the tin foil that it comes in, and I put it in the garbage, and I collect it in the box. It's a way of my keeping track of my medication. Never in my life did my son ever go near medication. He was a health nut. I had never, ever even thought of my son as being somebody that might manipulate medications of any sort.
Sally just told us earlier that he was partying too much in Wisconsin because of her. And it was all over the internet, party, 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 drink and party, all of that. So it's one or the other. It can't be both.
Well, drinking is different than drugging, in my opinion. I mean, it may lead to drugging, and perhaps it did in my son's case, but...
He did die from an acute fentanyl overdose, right?
Absolutely, he did.
And he was in your house, and you take fentanyl.
Yes.
And he died of an overdose of that drug.
Right. Now,
does that not... I mean, come on.
Of course. That's why I was saying the possibilities of him getting it from me is only if when they were in my room, that they went through my garbage and took it out of the garbage.
I would like to know when we were in your room.
Which is entirely possible, correct?
It is absolutely possible.
And those fentanyl patches can be smoked, they can be diluted, they can be all kinds of things after the fact, even used ones that still have the drug residue in them.
Even without the drug residue. I went over this with the coroner last week, and he told me that even without the fentanyl, even if the patch was completely absent of fentanyl, to smoke it is putting a poison in your body that could kill you. It's a phosgene gas or something of that nature.
Right.
So it's a poison either way. My son was not a kind of person to poison himself.
Did you give him fentanyl patches earlier for his back pain?
No, and that's what makes it even more absurd. To think that, I mean, one of her allegations is that I was giving my son fentanyl patches for 2 weeks before he came to New York. I was in New York.
It wasn't, it wasn't the 2 weeks right before. It was months before he died. And, you know,
now,
Chris, can I talk, please? You've had a long time to talk.
If there's been any chance of him getting fentanyl on the street, he wouldn't have told me because I would never have condoned that kind of behavior. And he wouldn't have told me if he did. And he was a child. He was a 19-year-old
He was not a child.
He would never have shared that with me because...
I've got to interrupt you and take a break here. And then I want to hear from you guys. Bob says an APB was issued for him, and riot police showed up at his door the day after his son died. We're going to find out what he was being accused of when we come back.
I was so scared of Bob because Bob is probably the most manipulative person I've ever met in my life. If I had to use one word to describe him, I would say Bob is evil.
And later...
You need to keep quiet, because I'm going to tell you something, young lady.
Pardon me?
You are lying.
First of all, you don't tell me to be quiet. I'll tell you that right now.
I don't care. I don't even know who you are. You be quiet. Whatever.
I believe that Bob is very mentally unstable. When 5 of Chris's friends came out from Wisconsin for Chris's funeral, Bob kept calling these kids off of Chris's cell phone. I called Bob back and I told him, quit calling the kids. They're with me, they're safe. He said that he had a gun and that he was gonna come after me. And I said, Bob, is that a threat? He hung up. I did call the police and I filed a police report.
Well, Tony's dad, Rick, says Bob made threats on his life, and Tony believes Bob is behind her boyfriend Chris's death. But Bob says he is not a murderer. The real killer is Tony. Do you believe that she killed him intentionally?
I would like to ask Tony, did you wait 45 minutes to get us on purpose to make sure that he was dead?
No. Okay, first of all, if you're home with someone, if you're at a house with someone and they get up to go to the bathroom and they're gone for a little while, you do not assume they are dead. You do not assume they are dead.
You said that he was in the bathroom throwing up, so he's sick, and you didn't stay with him?
No, this is what happened. When we got home from dinner, I went into the downstairs bathroom to use the bathroom. When I was opening the door, Chris came in and said, I'm going to be sick. I said, okay, I'm going upstairs. I'm going to get the TV on and get in pajamas. Just come up there when you're done. So I went upstairs into the bedroom. A few minutes later, I heard do. I heard him go upstairs into the bathroom, okay? So I'm watching TV, I'm listening to TV. 10 minutes goes by. I pause the TV. That's when the windows are open. I hear a car outside. That's when I think maybe Chris was out there trying to fix it. And then about 10 minutes later, I texted him. I said, where are you? He didn't respond. I called him. He didn't answer. This is when I opened the bedroom door, saw that the light was on and the bathroom was locked. But I'm not thinking, okay, he had been in there for 40 minutes. That's when I ran down, got you, and we ran back up, and you pounded on the door, Christopher. I'm not lying, so this is going to be he said, she said the whole time if this is how it's going to go. I'm just telling you right now. I don't know what to do.
Tell the story
You were
from the
not
beginning.
there. You need to keep quiet. Because I'm going to tell you something, young lady.
Pardon me?
I am a mother of 5 children.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here, and I can look at you face to face. You are lying. You are lying.
Okay.
Tell the story. Tell the truth.
That's exactly
Okay?
That's
No,
been it
it's
since
not.
day one,
No,
Sally.
it's not. No, it's
Yes,
not.
it
You know
is.
it.
There's
First of all,
nothing.
you don't tell me to be
Yes.
quiet. I'll tell you that right now.
I don't care. I don't even know
You
who
be
you
quiet.
Just chill.
are. Whatever.
You don't tell me.
Sit out of it.
Don't
You are
rip-
not part
you
of this
don't even matter.
conversation. Okay?
You don't matter
the part
at
of the
all.
conversation is you
You are
need to be
nothing.
honest
I
with
am being
yourself.
honest.
No,
I
you're not.
I am nothing.
No, you're
You hear
not.
that?
You and I never
Okay.
walked over there. Never.
Yes, we did.
No,
we ran
didn't.
up the stairs.
No,
You
we
pounded
didn't,
on
young
Christopher.
lady.
You never came up the
You
stairs.
Yes,
never.
I did. I
And
swear to God
during
on
the
my
CPR,
life.
you
Do a lie detector
never.
test on me.
You know
I wish we
what?
did a lie detector
I
test.
don't really
Dr.
care.
Phil,
So it's a
You
pathological
need to face
lie.
I'm a
the
pathological
major
liar.
Lie
person.
detector test.
Yourself
Dr.
in the
Phil,
mirror.
I'm not.
Because you know what? There's nobody else you're fooling here.
Okay.
This is not about
You're
anybody
ridiculous.
else.
You're ridiculous.
This is about telling. No.
This is
No,
about
little
Chris.
girl. You're right.
Chris.
It is. You're
Who
right.
hated
it
you,
is.
by the way?
You have a lot to face up to, and the one thing is,
You
be
guys are
honest with
psychotic.
yourself.
You need to be in a ward.
It's very sad.
This is pathetic.
So you're a
No,
doctor. You can
no.
diagnose
No,
people.
this is a
This
doctor.
is
So let him
pathetic.
do something.
Your
Well,
father cannot
I am,
cover you
and
your
I
whole
can.
life.
Thank you.
And I'm curious what you have to say about all of this. I don't think you're nothing. I think you're this girl's father, and I think that you have a vested interest here because your daughter is under attack, and I want to know what you have to say.
I want to start this night from the time they went to dinner. When Chris was already sick prior to going out to dinner and told them that he was sick, and not that he went home and they all of a sudden smoked all his dope and died.
Let's start the story from the beginning of the trip.
Here, let me tell it because I have
Whose car was not safe enough to even drive to college? Who I had
What?
to send my
College.
son.
She goes to college 2 miles away from our house.
$2,000 to my son to get her put new tires, new brakes,
Who
new
offered
struts
to do
into her
that,
car.
Bob?
Yeah, because
it
you
was
liked
unsafe.
me.
Okay,
offered
hold
to
on.
do
Let me
that?
That's
let me
right. I
let me
liked
hold,
you.
hold
I
on.
didn't want to see any harm
And you
come
say
to you.
that Chris was
Hold
with
on.
me all the time. That's because he loved me.
And I didn't want to see any harm come to you.
let
That's
me-
why I brought.
Then why
that's
are
why
you
I paid
doing
for
this
those
to me?
things.
Then why are you
I am
doing
not doing
this to
anything.
me?
You brought this up.
No, yeah, because-
You made the accusations. Is why we're here today. I've never contacted you. I haven't seen
Really?
you for 17 months. You didn't show up to the funeral. You didn't show up to the wake.
Tell me what your goal is in being here with her. What is it you want to achieve here?
I am here basically in defense. She's put me in a defensive position where she's accusing me of being a psychotic, a murderer, and things of that nature, when the fact is, I lost my son. My son is gone forever. Her life is the same. Her father's life is
Really?
the same.
My life is the same?
They
You have no
They
idea.
didn't lose anybody.
Really?
I lost my son.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to meet one of Chris's childhood friends who says Chris had a secret that ultimately cost him his life. We'll be right back.
Tony is a big, phony drama queen. She's a crazy nut that is controlling and bitchy. I did not tell Tony to come to our house and do drugs. I want Tony to wake up to the full reality of her actions. This is a serious thing.
I think Rick is a pathological liar. I absolutely believe that Rick knows exactly what happened, but it was apparent that they were making a smokescreen to block any kind of contact with them, and they were trying to make me look like a horrible person. Rick called New York State Police and made up a story that I was a dangerous sniper from the Marine Corps, and that he felt that I was coming to shoot them. This was a false police report. This is a crime. This is a felony.
Well, Bob says he is convinced that Rick knows what really happened to his son and is using every tactic he can think of to cover up for his daughter. But Rick says Bob is the one who is 100% capable of murder, not Tony. Well, Chris's childhood friend, Hans, says that he told him something that may be the key to unlock the mystery of what really happened that fatal night. So Hans is joining us via Polycom.
Since Chris was younger, he had surgeries on his shoulder, on his knee. I know for a fact he had taken his father's medication before, without Bob knowing, I believe. And basically, what I need people to understand is people aren't looking at Chris. Chris could not work because of his back pain, did not have a job. He did not have a place to stay other than his grandmother's house. At 20 years old, all your friends are in college. Everyone has a direction to go. He had nowhere to go. I believe Chris was depressed. I believe he was in a lot of pain. And meeting his new stepmother put a lot of stress on him.
Are you saying that you believe that this could have been a suicide?
No, I believe that Chris was using pain medication because he was depressed, because he was stressed out. Whatever happened, it was an accident.
And you told Bob that Chris was stealing his pain meds?
Yes.
Okay. And how did Bob react?
I also told him at the same conversation that he had been smoking marijuana, and he assumed that would had led to tons of other drugs or things that Chris might have gotten into.
Was he doing any kind of drugs, either marijuana or pain meds, before he met Tony?
He was smoking marijuana, and Chris was always a party animal.
What that? Because that kind of runs right in the face of your assessments of Tony's influence here. What we're hearing is a friend here that doesn't have a horse in the race, that's known him since 7th grade, that says he was a party animal, he was smoking dope in high school, he was stealing your pain meds.
I believe Hans wholeheartedly. I believe everything that comes out of Hans's mouth. I don't think he would mislead anybody on anything. Hans told me about this. This was probably 9 months after my son passed away. I was never aware that he took any of my pain medication.
Is this
Now,
inconsistent with you saying that she introduced him to this, that he became a party animal because of her, he was smoking marijuana because of her?
Party animal is different from the allegation that, you know, I'm saying that she turned him into a party animal is completely different from the fact that when she brought him into the college world and a portion of his life that I was unaware of, which became apparent to me as a parent once he got involved with Tony.
We're going to take a break. Sally says Tony will end up killing someone else.
Really?
We're going to find out why Rick was scared to come to L.A. and face Bob for the first time since Chris's death. We'll be right back.
Sally's a fake, controlling person. I hate her.
Look, I've got to say some things here, or I'm not going to feel good about how we've spent this time here. You've heard me say a lot of things. One thing you have not heard me say is I know how you feel. Because if you haven't been through the loss that you've been through, you just simply can't know. So I don't know how you feel, and maybe that's a good thing, because maybe it's good to talk to somebody that has a different perspective or some different objectivity about it. I think you guys, in your pain, are demonizing Tony here. And, you know, I wasn't there, and I don't know what happened. What I do know is that we have a young man here that looks to me and sounds to me to have been a very fine young man and had challenges that he was facing physically, and like a lot of kids that age, probably made some decisions and choices that were not the best. I know that he died of acute fentanyl overdose, and his dad was on fentanyl. And he was in his dad's house, and there was fentanyl in the house. You know as well as I do that to juxtapose him to those drugs, whether he got them out of the garbage outside or who knows where he got them.
But he got it off the street because he didn't get it out of my prescription, because my prescriptions were untouched.
And I think you would know
Absolutely.
if he had. And this looks to me to be very, very likely an accidental overdose by a kid that got ambushed with a drug that he didn't understand the potency of. And I mean, it's killing people all over the country the same way. And I think this was a tragic accident. And I hate that is what happened, but I do think that's what happened. I certainly don't think I have seen anything. And listen, I've evaluated serial killers. I've evaluated, passion killers in marriages and relationships and families in every possible way. And I can tell you, I don't see this murderous complex of characteristics in this young woman that would be necessary to hatch this kind of a plan. So I think you are brokenhearted, and I think you are angry, and I think you are experiencing a rage that comes with grief. And I think this is a target because she was not perceived by you to support your son's relationship with you. And I think that colors the filter through which you look. And I have a critical question to ask everybody here that I think will bring some real light to this situation. I'm going to do it right after the break. I said I had a critical question to ask everyone. Before I do, Hans, I'm describing what I think happened here. What do you think about what I'm saying, and what would you have to add to that?
I agree. I think it's a really awful accident, and I think that both these parties are overcome with grief, and they were angry, and they lashed out at each other, and it's just unfortunate because I know Chris wouldn't have wanted this.
Well, I did not know Chris. I'm sorry that I never had the privilege of meeting him. I think he was very fortunate to have you as a friend, and I think this family is very fortunate to have you as a friend. Hans really got to the heart of the matter in the last comment that he made, because the question that I have, that we all have to ask, is, Chris want right now?
I know it's easier for you to see, that he lost his son, but Chris is my best friend. I know he would not have wanted this to happen after he died.
What would Chris want, Bob?
I think that he would want all these false accusations to stop. Nothing will bring my son back. This is something I had to come to grips with immediately.
I thought about this a lot last night, that if I were in your shoes and I was taking a drug and had a drug in the house that ultimately killed my son, I would feel like maybe I'd spend a lot of the rest of my life second-guessing myself and wondering if unintentionally or some way I had contributed to his loss.
I've thought about it countless times.
I really, really hope that you give yourself some peace about that and celebrate all the days of his life, not the moment that he died. I hope you'll try and choose some peace in this. All right, we've got to stop. Thanks for being here so long.
Today on Dr. Phil, her youngest child went missing.
My son, Skylar, was charged with murder.
Do you believe that Skylar killed his little brother?
There's a lot of unanswered questions.
Well, he pled guilty to it.
Now,
I believe she tried to cover everything up. I had nothing to do with my son's death or cover up.
a family's shocking accusations.
Do you think she helped him move the body?
I told her, I know that you helped bury our son.
A teen admits to killing his 11-year-old brother. Who is really to blame?
On July 7th, 2013, a distraught mother, Shauna, reports her 11-year-old son missing. She says the child is autistic. Law enforcement and nearly 1,000 volunteers search for the boy. The entire community is rocked to its core. After an extensive search, the boy's body is found, eerily close to the home, partially buried under a tree on the property where he lived. The disappearance of this little boy was the lead news story for days in the small town of Menifee, California. But sadness turned to shock when Terry's half-brother, Skyler, was arrested and charged with killing his own sibling. Take a look.
A mother sobs for her missing son. This is Becca Smith, Terry Dwayne Smith's mom.
Search teams using a helicopter and a bloodhound look for him all day today.
He does have autism, so extra care is being placed on the search for him. According to police, Smith's mother went out. His teen stepbrother was watching him. Smith's mother went to check on him, and he was gone. The sheriff's department says they are looking at all possibilities and are not ruling out foul play. Smith's half-brother was the last to see the little boy. We did speak with that half-brother earlier this evening, and he says the last time he saw his brother, he was sending him back home. Of course, we know little Terry Smith never made it home. The next morning, Smith's mom went to check on him, and he was gone.
We're out searching for the little boy, Terry Smith, and we believe we may have found a human head.
Sheriff officials have now confirmed they are trying to determine whether human remains might be Terry Smith.
Well, shortly after Terry Smith Jr.'s body was found and Skyler was arrested, his mother, Shauna, and his father, Terry, were set to appear here on the show. But at the last minute, a judge put a gag order on the case prohibiting all parties involved from speaking to the media. Well, it's now over 1 year later, and a lot has changed. Skyler confessed to killing his half-brother, nicknamed Juju, and was convicted on 1 count of voluntary manslaughter. He is currently spending 4 to 6 years in a juvenile facility. Now, you'd think the story would end there, right? Not really. Juju's father, Terry, says he believes his ex-wife, Shauna, has some involvement in their son's death. Here's what she has to say.
I was never involved with Juju's death or cover-up. I'm just a mom wanting her baby boy home. The last time I saw Juju alive was July 6th. I prepared myself to go out for the evening. I had no reason to think that Skyler would be malicious towards Juju. Skyler would babysit Juju every weekend. I got home roughly midnight. The next morning, he was nowhere to be found. I asked Skyler where Juju might be, and he says, "I don't know, Mom. I think he's outside." Police came. They brought their dogs. The only thing I kept thinking about was find my son. There were thousands of people looking for my son. I never suspected Skyler. He never acted suspicious. After 4 days of searching, they found my son's body next to a pepper tree. Just lost it. I fell off my chair and I started screaming that it couldn't be true. I found out that the police suspected Skyler being responsible on the 11th. My son Skyler was arrested and charged with murder.
New developments in the case against a Riverside County teenager accused of killing his 11-year-old half-brother. Today, that teen admitted to the crime.
I believe that Terry Sr. is using Juju's death as a way to rehash our divorce 10 years ago. Terry Sr. has started spreading his lies, like me having something to do with Juju's passing or cover-up. Terry Sr. is a vengeful, abusive, manipulating, vindictive piece of work. I'm here today to put a stop to Terry Sr.'s lies.
Okay, Shauna, first off, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
You say you're here to put a stop to Terry's lies. What's the biggest lie that you want to clear up?
That I had nothing to do with my son's death or cover-up.
And his theory is what? That you did what wrong?
I really don't know what his theory is. It's other than she must have had something to do with it. She pulled the trigger. She made Skyler do it. Skyler's taking the fall for me. None of that's true.
Okay, so what happened that day? So that evening, you went out for the evening, right?
Yes.
And you left Skyler in charge. You left him to babysit.
Yes.
And he's 16 at the time, correct?
Correct.
All right. That doesn't seem terribly unusual to me that a 16-year-old would be babysitting, and he was babysitting Terry Jr., who at the time was 11.
Correct.
And was there any reason behaviorally in terms of Skylar's interaction pattern with Terry Jr. that would give you reason to think I shouldn't leave him in charge? He's either irresponsible or abusive or negligent or anything of the sort. Was there anything on Skylar's part that would say, I understand a 16-year-old can babysit, but not this 16-year-old with this 11-year-old?
Not at all. I would never expect Skylar to do anything malicious towards Juju.
Then what went wrong?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Well, no, it's not as good as yours because you're the mother and you knew both of the children. You had no indication that Skylar might be aggressive with Terry Jr.
No indication.
Zip, zero.
The only thing I can think of is it was an accident gone awry.
So you come home that night, right?
Right.
You get home what time?
About midnight.
Where was Skylar?
Skylar was in his bed.
Asleep?
Yes.
How do you know?
I checked on my boys. I had gone into the house, checked on both my boys. They shared the same bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Skylar sleeping, and I turned on the kitchen light, looked over at where my son was sleeping, or what I thought was my son sleeping, Juju, and went to bed myself.
You saw Skylar?
Yes.
Okay, but you didn't see Terry Jr.?
The way my house is set up, Skylar's bed was right in front of the door, so I could visually see. I saw his feet. I knew he was asleep. And I looked over Juju's bed, and what I saw was a mound that looked like his head, sleeping, and I was not going to disturb him. So I was, okay, you're in there. Love you guys. Turned off the light.
Okay, so the next morning, how did you determine that the lump, the
mound?
Yeah, it was not him.
When I couldn't find him at all.
Did you go look in the bed?
I looked in the bed. I looked in every room in the house, searched the property, called
Was
next
the bed
door.
still arranged the way it was?
No.
How was it different?
The mound was gone.
The mound was gone?
Yeah.
Do you think perhaps he was in the bed when you looked?
I honestly believe at the time, yes, he was in the bed. That's why I just turned off lights and went to bed myself.
Do you think he was alive or dead?
I don't know. At this point, I no longer know.
Okay, Shauna's ex-husband, Terry, recently filed a wrongful death lawsuit. He's the one that's making allegations that Shauna wants to answer and clear up. We'll talk to him next.
Skylar was abused by Terry Sr. I'm angry with Terry Sr.
And later,
I would never jeopardize my child's life. I'm sorry our son died. That hurts me every day of my life. My heart hurts every day. Terry Sr.'s lies are fueling these people attacking me. I have received death threats. You should die. You know you did this. I've been run off the road, stalked, followed. It's pretty scary.
First, let me say I'm very sorry for your loss. I can't even imagine, as a parent, what it would be like to lose a son. I hate that for you. You think that the truth has not come out here?
Nope, it hasn't.
And let's just talk about what you think it is that she's done wrong, because you have made some serious allegations against and about her. She says that it's causing her a lot of angst and hostility in your community, death threats, people running her off the road, one thing and another. Is that your desire?
No, and exactly from what I found when I was out there last year, she was running all over the place.
Was your son autistic?
No.
Because she said he was autistic.
Yeah, and he was proven in court that he was not autistic and he was not ADHD. They were checking on maybe ADD, but there was no diagnostics, and nothing as far as autism.
Was he autistic?
We were undergoing the beginning stages of testing him. We tested him for ADD, ADHD.
Had he been diagnosed as autistic?
The pediatrician had said, we believe he's autistic. Let's start this round of medication, see if it helps, and we'll continue on with the further diagnosing.
So he hadn't been diagnosed as autistic, but your pediatrician had put that on the radar screen.
Yes.
And but you told the media that he was autistic.
I said Asperger's because that's what it technically would have been. And that's what the pediatrician was leaning towards.
All right, so 16-year-old to babysit an 11-year-old is not something that you would alert the media about.
Nope.
But in this situation, you said it was inappropriate. Why?
Well, for one thing, Skylar had he had charges, and he was on probation for
assault.
Assault.
He had gotten in a fight at school.
Yep.
He had knocked a child's teeth out.
Yes.
So you feel like she should not have left him in charge of your son because he had a history of violence.
Skylar asked her to let him leave the house because he was about ready to blow up, and that was on Facebook. He even asked the probation department not to send him back home. And they went ahead and she said, well, either put him in juvenile hall or send him home. I need a babysitter.
Okay, and you say that you believe that she helped him move the body.
Well, after I found out Terry Jr. was found, which I did not get called from Shauna, I got called from the detective that took over the homicide. He's the one that called me, asked me if I'd go down.
Do you think she helped him move the body?
Well, when I found out about it, I talked to her on the phone and I told her, I said, Shauna, I know that you went ahead and helped bury our son in the backyard like a pet dog. She never denied it.
Well, Shauna says Terry's wrongful death lawsuit against her is just plain wrong. We're going to talk about that when we come back. Do you believe that Skylar killed his little brother?
I don't know what to believe anymore. There's a lot of unanswered questions.
And later, they're saying that you're not just negligent, that you are grossly negligent. You knew that he was a danger to your son, and you left him there anyway because you wanted to go out and party.
Terry Sr. has filed a wrongful death suit against me in the amount of $60 million. A man who said he would never profit off his son's death.
Basically, she's the reason Terry Jr. is dead. I don't care about money. Money's not going to replace Jr.
I've lost everything, so now he's just kicking me while I'm down.
Well, I'm talking to divorced parents, Terry and Shauna, who are divided. There's been a terrible death of their 11-year-old son, Terry Jr., whom they call Juju. Now, Shauna's 17-year-old son, Skylar, confessed to killing his brother and is now spending 4 to 6 years in a juvenile detention center. Shauna insists Juju's death was an accident. Now, Terry has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against his ex-wife for leaving their young son in the care of what he describes as her violent older son. Now, you know, I asked you before if you had any indication, any reason to believe that he could act this way, that he could be violent with his little brother. You now agree that he was on probation for assault. He had knocked a kid's teeth out at school. Terry is saying that he had told you he was about to blow, that he didn't want to be there. Is that true?
No, it's not true.
Do you believe that Sky killed his little brother?
I don't know what to believe anymore, quite honestly. Terry Sr. is correct. There are a lot of holes in the investigation. There's a lot of unanswered questions.
Well, he pled guilty to it.
He did.
So that would give you reason to believe that he did it.
Yes and no.
One theory Terry has espoused is that maybe you did it in a fit of rage and he took the fall for you. Is that true?
No.
Okay, I'm just asking you so you can answer, so
no, I would
you're on
never.
record as putting it out there, okay?
No.
So you believe he did plead guilty, so
He did plead guilty to
Did you
voluntary.
help him after the crime?
No, I would never do such a thing.
They searched the property. They said 1,000 people were out searching the property, but they found him right near the home in an area that had been searched, apparently,
yes,
previously. So
yes.
Was the body there when they searched the first time and they missed it, or was it not there and after they searched it was put there?
I don't think my son's body was there when everybody was searching. We've had mountain rescue with their poles, you know, tapping the dirt to make sure it was solid. The place that he was found in, FBI had stood there. I had stood there.
So you think it may have been put there after?
After the fact.
Where could it have been until that time? Where could...
I have no idea. Mm-hmm. That's one of those
questions. You didn't
questions.
assist him in any way? You didn't help him?
No.
Your son was said to have weighed 64 pounds.
Yes.
And how much did Skylar weigh at the time?
122.
Mm-hmm. So it would have been about half his body weight. Was he a strong kid? Was he able to move 64 pounds by himself?
Yes.
I'd like to introduce you to attorney Robert Karakoff. He is representing Terry in this civil lawsuit against Shauna. Robert, thank you for being here. This lawsuit is limited in its scope. You're alleging in the suit, or you're asserting in the suit, that there is gross negligence. And that has to do with conduct leading up to and resulting in the death of the child, correct?
Correct.
There's no allegation about her involvement in any cover-up, because there would be no damage that would flow from that, correct?
That's correct.
So the lawsuit is simply that she was, and by simply I don't mean to trivialize it, I'm just saying it boils down to that she was negligent in leaving this child in the care of someone that a reasonable person in the same or similar circumstance would know not to do.
That's what we allege in the lawsuit.
Mm-hmm. And what do you base that on?
Some of the documents that we've seen from Child Protective Services, for example, indicate that there is a violent history that Skylar had toward Terry Smith Jr. In particular. There are documents that expressly demonstrate that Skylar himself had admitted he was concerned about his ability to harm his younger brother had he been left alone with him.
You think he's just trying to profit off of his son's death?
Correct.
And you say $60 million, but I don't think there's been a damage claim made in terms of numbers, correct?
There isn't a damage claim in the lawsuit. There is a document that we had to serve on Ms. Smith before we could have her default entered that would set out the limits of the possible recovery. And so that's where that number comes from.
I see. All right. Terry's 17-year-old daughter says she has a theory about her brother's death, and it involves her stepmother, Shauna, who she calls abusive. We'll talk to her after the break.
Shauna was a very terrible mom. She acted very irresponsibly. On the night, I believe Shauna helped Skylar bury Juju's body.
Since all of this has happened, Terry Sr. has been one to say that I either helped Skylar, did it in Skylar's covering for me. It's unimaginable. The police gave me the polygraph 3 days after the body was found, and they asked me, did I do it? Did I help? Did I do the cover-up? I took it and passed it without an issue.
The disappearance and eventual death of 11-year-old Juju tore apart the lives of the surviving relatives, clearly. Skylar, now 17, recently confessed to killing his half-brother, was convicted on 1 count of voluntary manslaughter. He's currently spending 4 to 6 years in a juvenile facility. Now, Juju's father, Terry, says he believes his ex-wife, Shauna, had some involvement in their son's death by helping Skylar move the body. He's also alleged that she was grossly negligent in leaving Skylar in a situation where he had access to supervisory responsibilities for this younger brother without anyone there to protect him. How do you feel about those allegations? They're saying that you're not just negligent, that you are grossly negligent. I mean, that's just like willful. That just simply means you knew. Not only should you have known, but you knew that he was a danger to your son, and you left him there anyway because you wanted to go out and party. What do you say to that?
I'm angry. I'm angry that someone would think such horrific things. And if I saw the signs, Skylar would not have been left in charge of Juju. I'm sorry our son died. That hurts me every day of my life. My heart hurts every day. You should be looking at the life your son led. You really should. You should look at life the way he saw it. Find love, find peace, because in this world, there's tons of magic. Just open your eyes and have child eyes when you see it, because then you'll see your son.
So you do get what they're alleging here.
Yes.
And I'm not boy lawyer here. You have to help me out. When you say gross negligence, that's tantamount to intentional.
It's close. It's definitely between negligent and intentional, and probably slightly closer to intentional than negligent. Yeah.
And you are so wrong. You are so wrong. You are so very wrong. I would never jeopardize my child's life. If I saw the warning signs, trust me, it wouldn't have played out that way.
Shauna, you've seen the warning signs. You, in fact...
I saw warning
Shauna,
signs when you abused my son, and yet I listened to you.
Okay.
So don't tell me I saw warning signs.
Explain one thing to me right here, right now, all right?
I'm still talking.
Just
Please
how
don't
many...
interrupt me. I saw the warning signs with the handprints on my son's face that you left and then blamed on other people. You know what? That's why my son has PTSD.
When did this happen?
This is why my son has PTSD.
When did this happen?
I am not done. Do not interrupt me anymore. I am not your wife. I am not your little person.
Thank God for small favors.
Thank God. My son now suffers from PTSD because of the abuse you put on him.
Excuse me. It is in our divorce papers, flat out, from the psychiatrist that was ordered by the courts back there, quote unquote, yes, Skylar might have PTSD or whatever you want to call it, but it is due to the fact that you, in January of 2005, decided that you needed to go someplace else and see what more you could be other than a mother and a wife. I've got the handwritten letter to prove that. And you went to school, you pulled out all the kids out of their classes, put them in the office, and told Skylar right then and there that he and I were step, that I had nothing to do with bringing him into this world, that I was not his father, and that you were taking him. And at that time, young lady, you did. You took Skylar, only Skylar, and left me with the kids.
Why did I leave you with the kids? Oh, gee, because you threatened kidnapping on me.
Do you say he was inappropriate with Skylar?
Yes, he was.
In what way? You said he hit him. What else?
He hit him. He had sexually abused him.
Is that true?
It's false, and she knows it's false.
Saying you were never sexually inappropriate with this child?
Never.
Okay, I think that's important for you to say. And now in the lawsuit, you're claiming damages. We heard you on tape saying you don't want any money, but in the lawsuit, you're asking for money for a number of things.
I left that totally up to my attorney.
This is your lawsuit, and you're saying that you want damages for the value of lost financial and other support from the decedent.
Yeah.
You want the value of gifts or benefits the decedent would have provided you. You want the value of funeral and burial expenses. You want the reasonable value of household services that the decedent would have provided. And you're suing for compensation for the loss of the decedent's love, companionship, comfort, care, assistance, protection, affection, society, and moral support. So these are the things that you're asking for compensation for, right?
Yeah.
Did you pay for the funeral and the burial expenses?
I'm still trying to go ahead and come up with the money for the marker.
Well, you didn't pay for it.
No, I didn't.
But you're asking to be compensated for it, but you didn't pay for it. That just seems... I'm sure you can comment on that.
I can. At the time that the complaint was drafted, it was unknown to my office that there would be another party that had or already did compensate or take care of the funeral expenses.
Got it. All right, 17-year-old Skylar has a message for me, which includes an allegation against Terry. We'll be right back.
It's one of those things that a parent says, oh, I'll never go visit a child in juvenile hall, but yet here I am. Visiting them is probably the hardest thing I'll ever do. Skylar in juvenile hall is doing as best as he can to survive. Skylar does say he misses Juju. He's asked me for pictures. It's hard. Here's a boy who's in jail for the death of his baby brother. And now he's asking for his pictures because he misses him. I think Skylar's always going to be haunted by what happened.
Well, Terry and Shauna are divorced parents whose life changed forever last summer when their 11-year-old son, Juju, was killed by Shauna's 17-year-old son, Skylar. Now, Terry believes his ex-wife, Shauna, has culpability in their son's death. He sued her for wrongful death, saying she was grossly negligent in leaving Skylar to take care of and supervise the 11-year-old child. Now, Terry's 17-year-old daughter, Hannah, supports her father's belief that her stepmother, Shauna, had something to do with the crime. Take a look.
Shauna was a very terrible mom. Shauna never really cared for any of us. When my father was working, she would sit on the computer and make us sit on the couch all day until our father got home. The only time we were allowed to get off the couch was to go to the bathroom. We always got spanked with the belt or her hand or a shoe or whatever was close to her. She was brainwashing Skylar against my dad by telling Skylar that Dad never really loved him. I do believe Shauna was acting very irresponsibly on the night of Juju's death. Shauna leaving Skylar alone with Juju was not appropriate. Skylar was in trouble for fighting a lot, and I'm pretty sure she knows that. I believe Skylar killed Juju, but Shauna helped him to cover everything up. And Shauna helped Skylar bury Juju's body. The way I felt when Juju died was devastated, terrified, heartbroken. He was my little brother, and I loved him very much, and it killed me.
Hannah, thanks for joining us. And again, I'm very sorry for your loss. I hate that for you. That just shouldn't happen. Why do you think, I understand what you were saying about what she did or didn't do as a mother, but how do you make the leap to she assisted in moving and burying this body?
I don't believe Skylar could have done it by himself. I mean, I've seen pictures of their house and the fence where they found him by the tree. I've seen pictures, and I have an assumption that Skylar couldn't lift Juju up by himself. Someone had to be on the other side of the fence to assist him to get him over the fence.
Do you think she was involved in the actual killing?
I believe whenever she found out what happened, she wanted to protect Skylar and keep him safe, and she basically tried to cover him up.
All right, well, we actually have a statement from the Riverside County Sheriff's Department dated October 2nd, 2014. The area where Terry Smith was located was searched by friends and family initially and by numerous law enforcement officers and volunteers once involved. During the investigation, there was no evidence or information gained by interviews that suggested Terry's body was moved from one location to another. That doesn't mean it wasn't. They're just saying in the interviews they did, the information they gathered, that they can't say that he was killed in one place and moved to another. I just wanted to share that. Shauna says she knows in her heart that Juju's death was an accident. She continues to stand by her son, Skylar, visiting him weekly at a juvenile detention center.
We are going to see Skylar at juvenile hall this morning. Visiting him is probably the hardest thing I'll ever do. It's one of those things that a parent says, oh, I'll never go visit a child in juvenile hall, but yet here I am. I'm ready to go because I really need a Skylar hug.
was a great visit. I got 2 great hugs. He's got a new motto, head up, chest out, keep moving forward one step at a time. That was the best comment I think I got today. I can breathe.
He's full of smiles today, and he didn't have a headache, which always makes it a better visit. When I leave, I'm a little sad, but I know there's going to be another visit and another phone call. And I just need to remember to be strong, not just for myself, but for my son as well.
All right, next, we'll hear from Skylar, who says he is not a monster. We'll be right back. I'm here with Shauna and Terry. They are divorced parents. Hannah is also here. She is the older sister of Juju, Terry Jr., who was killed by his older brother. Now, his older brother is in jail. He's in juvenile detention for 4 to 6 years. Had he been older, had he been tried as an adult, he would have gotten much longer, correct?
He would have gotten life.
Yeah, and so, but because of his age, it's just 4 to 6. You stand by him. You believe he's done wrong, correct?
Oh, yes.
But you also forgive him.
Forgiveness is a hard word.
Okay.
But as a mother, I'm his mom. And when we bring our children into this world, it's unconditional love. Despite anything else, it's unconditional love. If I'm not going to be there for him, who will?
I asked for a letter from him, for him to tell me what happened and what went on. I didn't get that. Here are a few excerpts. Dear Dr. Phil, my mom has told me about the show and that it was to show the world that I am not some monster. Juju was the pesky little brother who tried to hang out with me all the time, even when I had friends over. He wanted to be just like me. I wanted him to be better than me, though. I love Juju and always will. Juju was always full of life and loved to tell stories. He was kind, giving, and always happy to be with the family. I was on the wrong path. I did drugs and got in so much trouble, I didn't want my brother taking after me. I always tried to push him to be better. Being in jail for over a year now, I'm sober, I'm taking responsibility for my actions, and I'm seeking help. My mom is my biggest supporter. When all this went down, I thought she would hate me. I expected her to. I hated myself, but my mom stood true to her word. She promised me since I was small that her love would never end, no matter what I would do. Then he says, I can't talk about what happened because it's still too much even for me. Just know I would never harm my siblings like that intentionally. I'm one who protects them. I love them, and though this cannot be fixed, I have to live with it for the rest of my life, which is my biggest punishment. You see, Dr. Phil, I'm no monster. I've just been on the wrong path. You know, I looked at that letter. I know that he did not do well in school, right?
No, he didn't.
Did you help him with that letter?
No, he dictated it to me over the phone.
That is the cleanest dictation I've never done that clean a dictation. Did you clean it up for him?
No, sir.
He said, my mom doesn't know all the details of what happened to me, semicolon. I don't want to hurt her with it all.
I added
She felt
the grammar.
guilty for the longest time, comma, and tried to be, that's good dictation. He did that?
I added the grammar because he does run-on sentences.
You mean punctuation?
Yeah, sorry.
Do you have $60 million to get?
No, I don't.
And Robert, you pointed out that that's the scope of where you can go. You're not actually suing for $60 million.
No. The whole purpose of that document is not to get cut off. If we had asked for $3 million and a jury awarded $4 million, then I would be having a client who was upset at me for putting the limit too low. It's a ceiling, essentially.
Right. I understand how that works. So you're going to see this lawsuit through, and
exactly.
You hope to take money from her.
Well, I doubt very seriously I'm going to get any money from Shauna. Period.
Well,
the main reason that I even started this lawsuit was for it to be right there in black and white that this was a wrongful death.
How has the small community of Menifee, California reacted to this story? Shauna's not at all happy how people have been treating her since her son died. We'll talk about that when we come back. At this point, your community is dealing with you harshly, is that right?
Yes, very harshly. I've had death threats. I've had my car run off the road. And I've been stalked, followed, you name it, it's happened.
Here's a Facebook comment from someone who lives in Shauna's town of Menifee, California. Tina says, I've met Mom and Dad. Fact is, Mom wasn't and isn't going to be arrested, so we need to stop beating her up and show grace. If she did something, it's her issue with God and her family. Dad just loved his son, and I'm sure it will always be a huge hole for him. There were others that we found that we can't read. There have been some very ugly things said,
yes.
Right?
Oh, yes.
And I get that. Here's what some of my Twitter followers have to say. Helen Luss, 1957, says, this is one incident where I'm trying not to judge based on my life experience, but it's hard to not be mad at the two adults. Jiminy Cricket 2 says, is anybody really mourning the loss of one child and the demise of the other? And Marianne Greer says, you are the mother. You are ultimately responsible for the actions of your children. You need to at least own that. So, yeah, I think people here are saying that you guys are fussing and fighting instead of grieving and honoring this young man. And I don't want to be guilty of the same thing. Let's take a moment to remember 11-year-old Juju.
Juju was a bright, smart, caring, loving young boy. The last time I was at this park, I had Juju here with me. Feels real lonely.
He was the light of the party. He made everybody smile. He made everybody comfortable.
Juju's still here. He's my co-pilot. His imagination and his story still continues. My son is the pure, unedited version of love. I think about him every moment, every day.
I miss him dearly.
Well, I know both of you have sustained a terrible loss here, and you have made it very clear. Your position is you did not see this coming, you did not assist in the cover-up, and you want to be just left alone and allowed to grieve your son. You stand by your other son
100%.
As his mother. You've made it very clear that you think that the truth is not out here.
Is not.
And you think she knew or should have known that he was in danger. And you're going to pursue this lawsuit.
Exactly.
Why don't you please love the memories that you have with him? Because they're all you have now. Just like they're all the memories I have. And instead of beating me up and dragging me around, why don't you take those memories and take your son's memory of bringing a community together out of love and not taint that any more than it already has been, and let him rest in peace.
On that, we will say goodbye for today. I want to thank all of my guests for being here. I can tell you as a parent, I can't even imagine the pain that y'all must be going through. I hope you find peace in that, and thank you both for being civil and direct here today. Log on to drphil.com and share your thoughts on our message boards. You can also find me on Facebook and Twitter. Use hashtag Dr. Phil. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Thanks so much.